Hey friends, this is Whiskey and Whit. I'm Whitney, and in today's video, we are doing another installment of one of my favorite videos to do of all time, the DIY Mystery Box Challenge, so stay tuned. So this mystery box challenge has been going on for a year now, which is crazy to even think about. It started, our first one we did last March. The mastermind behind all of this is Courtney over at Creative on the Cheap. She coordinates, she gets a group of us together and everybody gets a name. We could spend $15 to $20 at any store. There's always 2 challenge items that you have to designate and send to the person. And then you open up your box and you get crafting. You can use a little bit of the items in your stash. I try really hard to use everything in the box. And then also we have to incorporate a popsicle stick somehow into a DIY. So we'll see how this goes. So my box was packed up and sent to Courtney, so you'll have to go check out her video after this to see what I sent her. My box came from Kristen at Kristen K. I'm so excited. I've done collabs like this with Kristen, but I haven't been directly connected to her. I haven't sent her a box. She hasn't sent me one, so I'm so excited to see what's in here. While I'm cracking this open, a little bit about Kristen. She is hilarious. I love watching her videos. 1, for the craft content, but 2, just for her. Her voiceovers crack me up. They are so entertaining. So if you're not subscribed to Kristen, be sure to check it out. So I said Kristen was funny, and this is the card that's in there. And the first line says, "I'm the person who never buys cards because they're a waste of money, so your notes on scrap. The challenge items are easy." And I know you'll come up with some amazing DIYs. Awesome. Okay, so here's what we're working with. We've got a Dollar Tree tray. I love unfinished wood stuff. Ooh, a bamboo little Lazy Susan. Oh, put a little gift for Finn in here. Oh, that's so nice. We'll open that in a minute. Kristen, that was so nice. Oh, these are cute. Dollar General. How stinking cute. Okay, so this is Hobby Lobby. We've got a little truck here and then another little metal sign. Oh, this is Crafter Square. Wow, this is nice. We'll leave the challenges till the last. A little house. We've got some little clothespins. Little decorative crate. Now these are the challenge items that I have to use. So number 1 is a solar, what are these, like solar stakes? So I'll have to make something else for outside. Well, I guess I don't have to, but that's what I'm thinking with that. And number 2, oh my gosh, this is so funny. This, I just DIY'd something similar with the same shape into a little carrot patch situation. Okay, so I'm so excited. There are some awesome items in that box. So let's get crafting and see what I can come up with. I have jam-packed this video with 9 different projects for you with the items that Kristen sent me, and I am so proud of how these turned out. This has to be one of my favorite mystery boxes of all time. So let's start with this super simple photo frame. So this starts with the crate from the box, and I started by staining it dark walnut by Minwax, both the front, the back, all the edges to get it completely covered. Then I took one of the little clothespins and painted it an ivory color, and then I measured on my little crate where to put it right in the center. I hot glued it down, clipped in a picture of Finn's birthday party we recently had, and then I just took some jute twine to add a little bit of contrast and a little bit of character, tied it at the bottom over the picture so I can still get it out, and voila! It is so simple, and I was looking for a way to frame this image from the party, and so this is a quick and easy way to do it. You could also do this in portrait orientation as well. Now you guys know I love to create things that go together, and so that leads us into this little house vignette. So I took 2 of the houses from the box and decided to combine them because they were similar shapes. So I took some ivory Waverly chalk paint and painted 3 coats on the larger house and did 3 coats of black on the smaller house. Also on the smaller house, I took a flathead screwdriver and popped off the back, which is how it helped the sign stand up. After I got rid of all of those words on the front of the house, I cut out some scrapbook paper that I had left over from a Christmas DIY actually that just looks like wood planks, and I Mod Podged it to the sign. With some hot glue, I hooked the 2 houses together and I added the little kickstand thing in the back so it would stand up. The last step was to cut out a little monogram for the house. I just cut out the letter C and put that on the house. These signs were so cute already when I got them out of the box, so I really had to think about how I was going to use them. I really like the contrast and the fact that there are similar shapes with the roofs, but also that you've got the contrast of the black and white against the wood tones in the back. So for this challenge, we've got Jennifer, Shannon, Courtney, Kristen, Yami, Justin Ray, who is joining us for this run, Natalie, and myself. All the information that you'll need to check out everybody else's videos will be in the playlist down in the description, so be sure to check that out. Now let's tackle this white crate. So I have recently picked up these napkins from Hobby Lobby for a separate project, and I decided they would look really great on this crate, so I decided to decoupage. So I took some Mod Podge and started with one of the ends of the crate, Mod Podged the napkin on, and then just kept going around the edges, making sure that everything kind of was wrapped around. I was thinking in the realm of wrapping a present, of like tucking your corners and trimming where you needed to. And honestly, it was really easy to get it to lay down around the box. I ended up flipping that up over the top onto the inside of the box and snipping the edges so that I could tuck it in around the slats on either side. I simply just put some Mod Podge down and stuck down the napkin. Because it's so thin and it's a papery material, it's going to stick to that Mod Podge easily. For the handles, I ended up covering them initially, and then to get the cutouts, I just trimmed with my scissors and then pushed them in on either side, and then just took some additional glue to push it down. I repeated the same process on the other side, and then when it came to each end, I just cut some strips of the napkin to put it on each of the slats. I put it down, trimmed the excess, and then I pushed it around each edge so you could still see the openings of the slat of the crate, so you didn't lose any of the shape of the original item. My last step I did was adding one more napkin to the bottom of the crate, just in case I didn't fill it all the way. I wanted to make sure that was covered. And you could also take another layer of Mod Podge and put it over the top, but this stuck really well because they were a one-ply napkins. This with some cute little faux floral is going to be so cute through the spring and summer. I like that I went with the greenery because this could even honestly get you kind of into fall as well, depending on what you put in the basket. Overall, I was so unsure what I was going to do with this crate, and I absolutely love how it turned out. Okay, so let's tackle one of those challenge items, and I ended up making these really fun lanterns. So step one, I took some frosted glass spray paint that I got from Home Depot, and I gave 2 mason jars I got from Dollar Tree 3 coats. Then I grabbed some black, cheap 97-cent Walmart spray paint and painted the lids so that they would match the solar lights. Back inside, I have 2 pieces of wood. These are just unfinished wood pieces I got from Hobby Lobby, but I thought they would make great little bottom kind of pedestals for these. So I painted them both black with chalk paint. So I got one in the box from Kristen, and that came from Dollar General, and then I had one from Dollar Tree that I had at my house. So if you have a Dollar Tree stake, it's gonna go right into the lid very easily. You don't have to do any gluing. It's a perfect fit. If you are using ones from Dollar General, they're the same price, but you need to use a little bit of hot glue to hook it because the top part is a little bit shy of the circumference of the opening of the lid. I just added some hot glue and it worked out just fine. And then I added some hot glue to the bottom of both of the jars so that they were all stuck together as one unit. My last step was to just cover the hot glue on the one that didn't fit with some black paint so it blended in. So the tall jar is the Dollar Tree stake and the small jar is the Dollar General stake, which is the one that came in the box. And here is a light test. So I left them both outside for the same amount of time, and I would say that even though the Dollar General one took a little bit more work, it definitely has more light. Up next is another pennant sign. If you guys have been around for a while, you know I love making over these signs from Dollar Tree. So when I saw this mason jar, I thought it would make a great addition to one of those signs. So I started by painting it black. I gave 3 coats just to cover all of the wording. Then I grabbed one of my thinking of a master plan signs and some popsicle sticks. Here is one of the uses for the secret popsicle stick that had to get incorporated. I originally thought I was going to do some sort of shiplap and paint it white, but then as I was doing this, I thought, what if I did a herringbone pattern? So I marked the center of my sign, figured out where I wanted it to sit, and then I started gluing. Now, as you see me do this, I actually kind of went on an angle. Like as I was doing it, it looked straight and then it didn't. However, I think it turned out just fine. Honestly, when you're working with craft sticks and like Dollar Tree supplies, like I'm not like using a miter saw and like making sure everything is straight. But honestly, for doing this like by hand, I'm totally fine with it. So once I got my initial base pattern, then I went through and started trimming additional craft sticks so that they would fit with each edge. So I just took a pencil, marked where I needed to cut, and cut with my scissors. It was a pretty quick and easy process, albeit this is sped up, but honestly it took me maybe 15 minutes to do the whole sign, which was nice. Then once I was done, if any pieces weren't trimmed all the way, I went through with some scissors and just trimmed it down just to make sure that it fit that pennant shape. So then once the sign was complete, I grabbed some antique wax by Waverly just to kind of faux stain it. So originally I was going to try to be fancy and do like geometric art and like paint them different colors. Well, I stained the wrong one and I just said, you know what, we're just going to go with straight stain. And honestly, I'm glad I did because I think it would have been too busy with the mason jar. So I just put it on and wiped it off just like you would with stain, and then I made sure to sand down my edges. I did that out in my garage. So now that my mason jar is dry, I took an Arteza acrylic marker. I used this in my last video when I drew my lavender and I love them. I've been finding ways to use them now, but I just took it and drew some lines around the mason jar just to give it a little bit of extra oomph so it wasn't so flat. And then I hot glued it to the sign. Now, I went back and forth on what I wanted to put on it, and I just decided to make it a ball mason jar. So here's a cool trick. Grab your phone and a piece of paper and trace the logo on the screen. Do it lightly, don't hurt your phone, but with it going through the paper, you can create a really easy stencil. So then I just took some Arteza tracing paper and I put my makeshift traced ball logo on there. I traced it again, and once I was done, it gave me a cool line that I could follow with that marker again, so I could hand stencil on the ball logo. Now granted, I definitely could have gotten this cut out with my Cricut, but I wanted to show you how you could do this if you don't have a Cricut machine. Also, don't mind my hair. It was a natural hair day and my hair is very curly, so I decided to lean into the camera a little too much. I colored in the ball logo and wrote Mason by hand underneath it, and I am in love with this sign. I have not obviously gotten sick of these pennant signs, and I had a ton at my house because I'm going to be doing a compilation video on all of the ones that I've done, and this has to be honestly one of my favorites. I love how it turned out. The other challenge item was this butterfly box, and I happen to have 2 additional ones at my house because I knew I wanted to do something with it, but I couldn't figure out what. So I started by sanding off the glitter on the box, and then I took one of them and used my miter box and saw just to carefully chop off the top. I tried to just do it on my miter saw, but the blade would have gotten too close, so I just was able to pop it off and sand it. I also removed the glitter from the other 2 boxes. Once that was done, I just used some wood glue and some clamps. This Gorilla Glue you can get at Walmart. You could also use hot glue, a variety of different things. And I just used the clamps with the wood glue to clamp it together. And then I clamped my second box to the other side. So as you can see, it's starting to come into a crate. So then I took some Ivory Waverly chalk paint, so that off-white, and I painted the entire thing. I gave it 3 coats just to make sure everything was covered except for the outside, because I knew I was going to cover that with popsicle sticks. So I took some more popsicle sticks with the ends chopped off like I did for that sign, and I created just a little kind of subway tile, shiplap, if you will, mosaic, and I really like how it turned out because it actually looked kind of like a wicker basket a little bit. Then once that was all glued down, I took some more of that ivory paint and painted over the top of the unfinished wood. Then I needed to add a handle, so I grabbed a 12-inch Dollar Tree little dowel rod from Crafter Square section, and I took some antique wax just to faux stain it for the handle to kind of pop. Once I rubbed off the excess, then I grabbed my glue gun and fit it so it would fit nice and snug within the crate. Now, this is not going to be something that I'm like running around holding the handle. Like, obviously it's decorative, but I could pick it up with the light greenery that I put in it, so it stuck pretty well. Then I took a paper towel and some more antique wax and I just buffed it over the pieces of wood as well as the 2 ends of the crate, just to make it feel a little bit more like it was wood, give it a little bit more of that warm tone. And I have never put the wax actually over paint, so I think it turned out pretty good. Then to finish off the look, I just grabbed some additional floral stems that I had in my stash. I chopped off the little pieces and arranged them within the box so it looked like it was freshly picked. And here it is. Honestly, when I first saw that, I knew that I had those extra ones. I wasn't sure what to do with it, but I think this is a pretty good use of a challenge item. Like I said, I really like that side. It looks kind of like a wicker basket. One thing I had no trouble figuring out what to do with was this turntable or Lazy Susan. I knew I wanted to have it be a little bit darker than it was, so I did that using Minwax wood stain. It didn't stain as well as I wanted it to, but it is bamboo, so I knew I was kind of taking a gamble there, but nonetheless, I think it looks nice. It's darker than it was. And then I cut out a stencil on my Cricut, and I cut out the stencil plus a circle the circumference of my little Lazy Susan, and I did that because it helps me line it up. So I used some paper transfer tape from Expressions Vinyl, which I talk about all the time. I really like to use this when I'm working with wood, and put it down onto my little bamboo tray. So then I took some Mod Podge just to seal down the vinyl. Now I'm using permanent vinyl. It came in the multi-pack. It's random brown, obviously. But I like to use the Mod Podge and then use this stippling method just up and down with a makeup brush. As I'm pulling this off, you can see it gives you nice, clean lines. Then the last step was to take some polyacrylic and give it a clear coat. I did this so it wouldn't scratch the paint or anything, but I'm not trying to make this food safe. Honestly, I wouldn't recommend that. And comment down below if you know what artist and song these lyrics are from. And finally, this last project is what I decided to do with the metal truck, as well as the galvanized metal sign from Dollar Tree. So I knew I had some scrap wood in the garage, so I ended up finding this 12 by 12 piece from one of Alex's projects, and so I decided to make a sign. To frame it out, I measured and knew that it was a 12 by 12 piece, so I needed 2 pieces that were 12 inches, so they would be flush with the sign. Then I measured end to end to get 13.5, and so I cut 2 more pieces at the 13.5 so it would overhang those 2 pieces that were flush with the sign. Then after sanding it, I grabbed my handy dandy dark walnut by Minwax stain and stained all of the trim as well as both sides of the wood sign. Now I decided to make this into a wreath box essentially, and so you could hang whatever sign you wanted on there, and I knew I wanted a muted version of buffalo check. So I started with a kind of dry brushed white background with the Ivory Waverly chalk paint I've been using all video,
And then I decided to use a 2-inch painter's tape instead of my traditional about 1 inch for a thicker, chunkier buffalo check. I painted off vertical stripes and I painted that with a light gray. Now here I want to do light coats of the paint, but I also want to make sure that the edges of the lines are fully covered, because if you do too much of a dry brush technique, you're not going to be able to see anything with the buffalo check. So then once that's dry, do the same process, peel off the tape and do some horizontal lines with another piece of tape as your spacer. Now this is the piece that I always like to do, and I recommend that you do as well. Mark where the original painter's tape was, because if you don't, then you won't know where to put it back when we go to make our dark squares. So I just mark some X on those pieces of painter's tape, and that easily helps me, like so, put the tape back from the first round. Then I went through with some Elephant by Waverly to do the dark boxes. You could also do black if you want the traditional buffalo check, but I decided to do gray. Now as I'm pulling this up, you'll see some of my white squares with the dry brushing technique didn't cut it, so I just went in and filled those in with a little bit more paint, and then to even everything out, I used a sanding block to sand it. Then I hooked on my two 12-inch pieces of trim with a brad nailer, as well as my outer pieces. I like to do the ones that are flush with the sign first, and then I do the outside ones. Then I measured where the halfway point was, and I added a nail so I could hang whatever I wanted on the front of the sign. The first happens to be this truck, and given the tag, it was $4.99 at Hobby Lobby, so you could probably get it half off, which would be $2.50. So that's a really cute sign for that price. And then also I added just a quick Cricut decal to the galvanized metal sign that Kristen put in the box from Dollar Tree. This says, "Sometimes I wish I could go back in time, not to change anything, but to feel things twice." This was a printable that popped up on my Pinterest feed and it resonated with me, so I put it on a sign.
Wow, that was a lot of projects, but I am so happy with how they turned out. I just love these mystery box challenges. A huge thank you to Kristen for sending me that awesome box, and thank you to Courtney for continuing to invite me to be a part of these collaborations. They are so fun. And now you'll have to head over to Courtney's channel to see what I sent her, especially the challenge items, so you can check out and see what I picked out for her. If this is your first time stopping by Whiskey and Whit, welcome. I would love it if you would hit that subscribe button. Chances are you love DIY and home decor content. That's how you got here from somebody else's video. I love all of that, Dollar Tree DIYs. I also love to do wood builds. I'm a huge Cricut fan, so if you got a Cricut and looking for tips, you can also subscribe for that. So be sure to hit the button down there so you don't miss any future Whiskey and Whit content. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!